Hello students, today we are going to read about tumors of unknown origin. Which tumors are we going to read? We are going to read about those tumors which are of bony origin. Okay, we are going to read about those tumors which are of bony origin, and these are tumors of unknown origin. Okay, so basically the tumors of unknown origin can be classified, okay, under three categories. Okay, it can either be benign, intermediate, or it can be malignant. So the benign tumors, we are having simple bone cyst, giant cell tumor. Now Robbins have given giant cell tumor as tumor of undefined neoplastic nature. But under the latest WHO, if you see giant cell tumors, they are under giant cell containing lesion. Giant cell containing lesion. So there is a separate heading for giant cell tumors. Okay, then we have fibrous dysplasia, osteofibrous dysplasia, Rosai-Dorfman disease. Under the intermediate category, we are having those tumors which are locally aggressive, like aneurysmal bone cyst, Langerhans cell histiocytosis, Erdheim-Chester disease, and under malignant tumors we have Ewing's sarcoma. Okay, so this is the classification of tumor of undefined neoplastic nature, and this is very important. Again, it is a long answer question. Now, very importantly, today if you see multiple tumors that we are going to discuss today, they are actually giant cell containing tumors. Okay, giant cell containing bony tumors, containing bony tumors. Okay, so majority of them are giant cell containing bony tumors. So first we are going to read about giant cell tumors in detail. Okay, so let me just show you the classification. Okay, so this is a very important classification. It is an very important exam slide. Giant cell tumor in itself, it is an exam slide. Okay, also giant cell containing lesion, it is actually very important long answer question in exam, wherein you get a 10-mark question to discuss the giant cell containing lesion. So what are the giant cell containing lesion? This is the number one viva question for residents. So first of all, there are certain giant cell containing tumors of the bone which are reactive in nature. What are those? The brown tumor, giant cell reparative granuloma, pseudomalignant myositis ossificans, and tubercular osteomyelitis. Then there are certain entities which are neoplastic in nature. So again, the neoplastic entities, they can either be benign or they can be malignant. So the neoplastic entities, number one, most common is your giant cell tumor. Okay. Then we are having aneurysmal bone cyst. Then we have chondromyxoid fibroma. Then we have chondroblastoma. Then we are having chondroblastoma, non-ossifying fibroma, Langerhans cell histiocytosis, and benign fibrous histiocytoma of the bone. Now, out of this, if we are going to see, we have already discussed chondromyxoid fibroma and chondroblastoma in the lecture on cartilaginous tumor. And we have also discussed this particular entity in lymphomas when we were reading about non-neoplastic lesions. So there we have already covered about this. Okay, so non-neoplastic lymph node lesion, non-neoplastic lymph node, we have already covered this part of Langerhans cell histiocytosis. Okay. So over here today, we are not only going to discuss the tumors of unknown origin, but we are also going to understand about the giant cell containing tumors. Okay, first we are going to read about GCT, aneurysmal bone cyst, in details. And then we are having very rarely malignant giant cell tumor comprising 3% of all giant cell containing lesion. Clear cell chondrosarcoma, which we have already discussed in the lecture on cartilaginous tumors. It is also giant cell containing lesion. Giant cell rich osteosarcoma. So in the previous lecture on osteogenic tumors, we have already read in details about giant cell rich osteosarcoma, and we have read how we differentiate it from giant cell tumor. And any metastatic carcinoma might also contain giant cell. So I hope this classification of giant cell tumor is crystal clear for everyone, because this classification will be asked to each and every student who will be appearing for your final exam. This is a very important chart. Okay, and remember, giant cell tumor will either be your histopathology slide or you will get an FNAC slide, and all questions regarding that will be asked. The first question will be the giant cell containing tumors. It is again a long answer question asked in theory, and it is also asked in your viva. So let us, without wasting any more time, let us start with our giant cell tumor. So I hope both this classification is clear to you all. We are actually reading about tumor of undefined neoplastic nature. Over there, we have benign, intermediate, and malignant varieties. Under the benign varieties, I have already discussed simple bone cyst, giant cell tumor, fibrous dysplasia, osteofibrous dysplasia, Rosai-Dorfman disease. Intermediate category, we are having aneurysmal bone cyst, LCH, Erdheim-Chester's disease, and in the malignant tumor is Ewing sarcoma. Under this heading, we are having GCT also, and GCT classification we have already seen, giant cell containing lesions. The classification of that we have already seen. And now we are starting with the giant cell tumor. That is the first entity we are going to discuss in today's lecture. So giant cell tumor is a tumor which is basically characterized by the presence of numerous multinucleated osteoclast type giant cell. It is very, very important to understand the nature of the giant cell in a giant cell tumor involving the bone. Okay, it is osteoclastic in nature. That is very important. This term is very important. Okay, now very importantly, majority of them are benign in nature and they are locally aggressive also. Okay, and remember that this uncommon tumor is usually arising in the 3rd through the 5th decades of life. So again, the age group is very important. Usually the bones are skeletally mature. The bones over here are skeletally mature in nature. Okay, bones are mature. Very important. Why am I telling you this stuff? Because it will help in the differential diagnosis. Okay, and they are seen in 3rd and 4th decades of life. It never happens. It is very uncommon that we are looking at a giant cell tumor in a pediatric population. So for example, if you look at a giant cell tumor, giant cell containing tumor is there, and it is a pediatric population. Okay, for example, you are watching, and if you see that the cells are also very atypical and there is a permeative nature, plus they are producing bone, it is basically a giant cell containing osteosarcoma. Always remember, giant cell containing lesion in a pediatric population. This history is very important. GCT classically occurs in adulthood, 3rd and 4th decade of life, but giant cell containing osteosarcoma might involve the pediatric population. Although any and every site can be involved, but the most common ones are the distal femur and the proximal tibia around the knee joint, okay, or the distal radius and the sacrum. Remember this part, the sacrum is classically involved. Remember, above the sacrum, the vertebra is not involved by giant cell tumor. This is again very important, and the site being the epiphysis, very, very important. So what are the things that we have seen over here? That majority of these tumors, as we have seen, they are benign in nature, number 1. Number 2, they are in 3rd to 4th decade of life. They are classically in the epiphysis, involving the ends of long bones mainly, and if it involves the vertebra, it is involving the sacral region. And one very important point, that they are developing in skeletally mature individuals, means in adults, okay, wherein the epiphysis has fused. Okay, now very rare examples are there wherein the giant cell tumor has occurred in the metaphysis or diaphysis, but mainly they are in the epiphysis. Okay, in skeletally immature individuals you will not see. So usually remember, if you are finding a giant cell rich lesion in a skeletally immature, the basic thing means immature is meaning it is a pediatric population. Okay, then giant cell condition can be a giant cell rich osteosarcoma, or it might be a ABC, but it can never be GCT. Okay, Now, very important thing is that anatomical sites are very important. Now, there are certain reactive conditions, there are certain endocrine conditions wherein you will find a giant cell rich lesion in the in a flat bone. Okay, so giant cell lesion in a flat bone should lead to consideration of hyperparathyroidism. Okay, and in hyperparathyroidism, there's a classical feature of subperiosteal resorption of bone. Subperiosteal resorption of bone is there. Okay, subperiosteal resorption of bone is very important feature. Okay, now one very important thing, again, the bones, small bones of the hands and feet, they are not involved. Okay, remember, within the small bones of the hands and feet, if you see a giant cell lesion, it is not a GCT, it is more likely to be again a reparative granuloma or an aneurysmal bone cyst. Okay, so please remember these 6 points that I have stated. It is a mostly benign, third and fourth decade, involving the epiphysis, long bones. If involves the vertebra, it is sacrum, not above the sacrum, and skeletally mature bones. Okay, skeletally mature bones. Okay. Now coming to the next. Now radiologically, this lesion is purely lytic. Okay, it is a destructive lesion and it is there in a skeletally mature patient at the end of bone. So let me show you one diagram so as to prove my point. So can everyone appreciate over here a tumor over here? Yes. It is a lytic. Lytic meaning that it is, if you see, this is, if you see the color, this is more clear. Okay, this is more clear. This is called as a lytic lesion. Now, first of all, this is one end, this is another end. So it is a end of a long bone. End of a long bone. And it has involved the epiphysis, if you can see. So it is involving the epiphysis. Okay. So this is very important, and the age group again will become very important for diagnosis. Okay. So looking over here, now one very important stuff over here is the pathogenesis. Now, if I just read it out, you will feel bored. So I will explain you with the help of diagram. Okay. I will come to the gross and microscopic features, but before that, I will like to discuss about the pathogenesis because that is a very important question that is asked. Now, can any one of you tell me that which are the tumor cells? Are these the tumor cell or these are the tumor cells? Which of them are the tumor cells? Are the giant cell the tumor cell or the stromal cell are the tumor cell? First tell me. Okay, I will tell you. If you look at this, this is basically the giant cells. Okay. And where has this giant cell come from? This giant cell has been derived from the osteoclast. This has come from the osteoclast. And actually, the real tumor cells are the stromal cells. So these are the mononuclear stromal cells. Okay. And these stromal cells are the real tumor cells. They are the real tumor cells. These are actually certain osteoblastic precursors. Okay. These are osteoblastic precursors. And these are tumor cells, mind it, and they are actually releasing a ligand called as Rankel, and this Rankel is actually stimulating the growth and proliferation of osteoclast. Growth and proliferation of osteoclast. So as a result, you have a lot of osteoclast which is maturing and forming the giant cells. Okay, this is the basic pathogenesis of giant cell tumor. Is the pathogenesis crystal clear to everyone? Yes. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this should be very clear because you will be asked in the exam these questions that which are the tumor cells over here, then you should be able to answer. The stromal cells, the mononuclear cells, these are the tumor cells. Okay, why there is a giant cell production over here? You have to say that because these are the neoplastic cells which are rapidly proliferating and releasing Rankel ligand, which is basically acting on the nearby osteoclast, leading to giant cell formation, and multiple such giant cells can be seen in this particular diagram. Okay. Okay. Now I will go and just read the pathogenesis out, and then I will discuss the microscopy once again. Okay. Okay. Let us go back. Okay, so if you see the pathogenesis of these tumors, so most cells with giant cell tumors, they are non-neoplastic osteoclast. So whatever giant cells that you see, they are not the tumor part. They are the non-tumorous or non-neoplastic part, as I told you. The neoplastic cells are the stromal cells, which are the primitive osteoblast precursors, as I told you, which is expressing increased quantities of rank L ligand, which is promoting the proliferation of osteoclast precursors, and then their differentiation into mature osteoclast, which is nothing but the giant cells. Okay, the giant cells are not the tumor part. The stroma, which is the primitive osteoblast precursors, they are actually the real tumor part. Okay, now remember, this basically, normally there is a feedback. Normally, only limited amount of osteoclasts they are stimulated. And once the osteoclasts are stimulated, for some reason, they are again inhibited. But over here, this is not there. And what is the function of osteoclast? It is a type of a macrophage only. Yes or no? It will eat. It will eat. It has a phagocytic function. So it is causing destruction. It is highly destructive and it will cause a lot of bone resorption, because that is the natural function of an osteoclast. Okay, now remember, this neoplastic cell, that is the stromal cells, they have acquired a mutation in a gene which is encoding a protein called as histone 3.3. Okay, very, very important. And as we already know, they are developing within the epiphysis near the knee, involving the distal femur or proximal tibia. And we have to understand one very important thing, that because they are arising near the joint, so giant cell tumors may cause arthritis-like symptoms. Okay, they can also present with pathological fractures. Okay, so till here, I think the pathogenesis is clear to everyone. Yes. Now I will come to the morphological or the gross image. Now, very importantly, as I told you, because there is an excessive activity of the osteoclast, there is a destruction of the cortex. Okay, there's a destruction of the cortex. And as I told you in the first lecture, when I told you that any benign bone tumor, they are going to incite a reactive bone formation. There will be a reactive periosteal reaction that will be there, any kind of benign tumor. So over here also, they are delineated by a shell of reactive bone. Grossly, these tumors, they are large reddish brown masses which might undergo cystic degeneration. They might have secondary aneurysmal bony cyst like nature. Okay, and sometimes yellow areas might be there, which is indicating intratumoral fat-laden macrophages. Now over here, if you can see this particular lesion, classically, if you see, it has involved the end of the bones. Okay, and they are reddish brown in color. Very, very important. Grossly, they are reddish brown in color. And can you also see, it is, you cannot say that it is highly destructive, but locally it has, permeated. It has caused certain amount of destruction actually locally. Okay, so that is very important. It has involved the surrounding structure. So it is locally destructive because of the nature of the osteoclast itself. Okay. Okay. Histologically, as I told you, there are two components. Okay, histologically, there are two components. As I told you, let me just show you over there in that diagram that I showed you. Okay, histologically, there are two components. One component, which is your non-neoplastic component. These are the giant cells containing multiple nucleus. Now, what is the nature of this lesion? I have already explained, so I'm not repeating again. Other part, that is the stromal part, this is your neoplastic part. This is a neoplastic part, which is round to oval mononuclear tumor cells. But very important part over here is that there is no cytological ATPS. Cytological ATPS is completely absent over here. Much necrosis and hemorrhage will not be seen over here. Classically, the cells are benign looking. Okay, so this is one very important point that we have to understand. Also, sometimes so remember one very important thing, there are two parts: osteoclast type giant cells, and the tumor cell is the mononuclear round to oval uniformly distributed throughout the lesion. This point is very important, that the arrangement of these tumor cells, there is a uniform arrangement. Uniformity is very important. Uniform arrangement of tumor cells is there. Uniform distribution of giant cells, this is very important. Okay. Coming back over here, again, as I told you, cytological atypia is absolutely not there. And remember, because it is a benign tumor, there will always be a reactive bone formation surrounding it might be present. But remember, the tumor cells by itself is not synthesizing any bone or cartilage. So you will not see any bony matrix, any cartilaginous matrix will not be there. Sometimes what may happen that there might be, these cells might be enlarged, hyperchromatic, but without any atypical mitosis. So these are representing degenerative changes in a GCT. Sometimes the cells might be spindle shaped, they might have a storiform pattern. Usually storiform pattern is seen in case of fibrous cortical defect, or that we say non-ossifying fibromas. Over there you might get a spindle cell storiform pattern. But as I told you, in non-ossifying fibroma or in fibrous histiocytoma, you might get such a pattern in means this pattern, storiform pattern, is more classical over there. But in GCT, you might sometimes have this pattern. But remember, one very important thing is that even a very small area which is typical of GCT is present, then we will go for a diagnosis of giant cell tumor only. So if you see over here, the stromal cells at some places, if you see, these are actually round to oval, okay, round to oval cells. At some places, they are very typical of GCT. At some areas, the cells might become spindle shaped, as we see in this area. They might become spindle shaped, and they might mimic other tumors like non-ossifying fibromas, okay, or other fibrosing lesions. But even if a small part of typical giant cell like tumor is present, like it is over here and over here, then you should go for a diagnosis of giant cell tumor only. Okay. Now, as I told you also, sometimes giant cell tumor might undergo aneurysmal bone cyst-like changes might be there over there. So over there, you might get areas of hemorrhage and all. But for example, if this is the entire tumor, in one part of the tumor, you might find the ABC-like changes. Aneurysmal bone cyst-like changes will be there. But the other part is classically typical of, giant cell containing lesion. Then you will go for a diagnosis of GCT with secondary ABC-like changes. Okay, this is very, very important, very commonly and frequently seen. This ABC-like change is very frequently seen over here. Okay, and in addition, sometimes you might see prominent collection of lipid-laden macrophages, which may dominate the histological picture sometimes. Okay, okay. Now, very importantly, now as I have always emphasized that one question is always coming on the molecular aspects of bone tumors. So I have individually discussed the molecular aspects, and in the end of the lecture, I will just make a note and I will give you the molecular aspects of all these tumors together, because that is a full question again. So this is in the latest. So most giant cell tumor, they show P63 positivity, and whatever tumors that come in the differential diagnosis like ABC, chondroblastoma, giant cell osteosarcoma, giant cell reparative granuloma, all these tumors or brown tumors, they are negative for this, but GCTs are positive for this. But more specific than this is the molecular aspect of GCT. Let us understand the molecular aspect of giant cell tumor. Now, giant cell tumors, they show mutation in a gene called as H3F3A. And over here, they are synthesizing a protein called as histone 3.3. Now remember, as discussed in section, this mutation, that is mutation involving H3F3A and B, it can also be seen in chondroblastoma as well. But remember, the frequency of H3F3A, this is more common in GCT, whereas H3F3A and B, they are more common in chondroblastoma. Okay, so remember this very important thing. Even you can carry out IHC with this protein, as we had discussed for chondroblastoma. Over here also, immunohistochemistry with antibodies against this protein can also be diagnostic of GCT. Okay. Also very important is that because we know the pathogenesis, the increased expression of RANKL is there in the neoplastic mononuclear cells. So we have developed certain drugs like denosumab, which is anti-RANKL antibodies. Okay. Now, rarely a benign giant cell tumor might metastasize. Most commonly, it does so in the lungs. Okay. Most commonly, it will do so in the lungs. But remember, the prognosis for such lesion is usually quite excellent. You just remove it and basically nothing happens. Okay. So what are the differential diagnoses? The number one differential diagnosis, as we see, is aneurysmal bone cyst. Now, let us try and differentiate this from aneurysmal bone cyst. Can anyone tell me how we can differentiate ABC versus GCT. Now, first thing about ABC, both of them are lytic lesion, but ABC is basically common in the metaphyseal lesion. Whereas if you look at the GCT, it is occurring where? In the epiphysis. So it's the first point of difference that we have to see. Histologically, if you see over here, there will be lots of areas showing hemorrhage, and the fibrous septa separating this hemorrhagic area is containing the giant cells, whereas the giant cell tumor, you see uniformly distributed giant cells throughout, and you do not have much hemorrhagic areas or cyst-like areas, okay? Or even if some cyst-like areas are there, they are in the background of typical giant cell tumor, okay? Also very important is that this ABC is containing some other USP6 mutation or rearrangement is there, whereas this is containing H3F3 mutation. A mutation is far more common. This is how we differentiate the giant cell tumors from ABC at all the three levels, okay? Then we are having chondroblastoma. Now, chondroblastoma will have a cartilaginous and immature cartilaginous component will be there. So from there, we can differentiate, okay? From there, we can differentiate between this. Now, between giant cell rich osteosarcoma and that, again, I have already discussed. First is the age group. Osteosarcoma, if you see, it will be common in your younger age group, whereas giant cell tumor will be common in the older age group. Again, osteosarcoma, the cells will be atypical, whereas any kind of atypicality will be absent in case of giant cell tumor. Then we are having a reactive lesion like giant cell reparative granuloma like lesion. And we have so-called brown tumors of hyperparathyroidism. Over here, as I discussed, they will show subperiosteal resorption of bones. I will show you those diagrams, okay? As I told you, in hyperparathyroidism, you will have subperiosteal resorption of the bone, which is not seen in GCT. In ABC, as I told you, one is the location is in the metaphysis, not the epiphysis, and they contain USP6 genetic rearrangement. And again, the histology is different than GCT. Giant cell rich osteosarcoma, they have frankly malignant cells and they have osteoid production along with the permeation of the matrix that is absent completely in GCT. Okay, and chondroblastoma, as I told you, the most important point of difference between chondroblastoma and between GCT is that most chondroblastoma is happening in a skeletic, immature skeleton, whereas giant cell tumors, they occur in skeletally mature individuals. Okay, very important, chondroid differentiation will not be seen in case of GCT, whereas that will be seen in chondroblastomas. And both of them have the same mutation, that is this H3F3A or B. It is present in both GCT as well as in case of chondroblastoma, but the frequency of this is far higher in case of GCT in comparison to other. Again, by immunohistochemistry, basically, this immunohistochemistry will be positive, H3.3 IHC, as I told you, for detection of GCT. Okay. Okay, I hope this particular part is clear to everyone regarding to giant cell tumor. So we have discussed in details regarding the basic classification of undefined neoplastic tumors of the bone. Then we have discussed the giant cell lesion along with the classification of the same. Then we have also discussed about the giant cell tumor, the basic, what is the age group, what is the site, okay, and what is the nature of such lesion. The radiographical image we have discussed. We have discussed the pathogenesis, gross, microscopic image, along with the differential diagnosis also has been discussed in details, along with the molecular pathogenesis as well. Now we will come to the section that is the malignancy in a giant cell tumor of the bone. Yes, if the question is, if your examiner is asking you that whether giant cell tumor can be malignant or no, the answer is yes. In very small proportion, 3% of the cases it might be, but it is. And the next question will be whether it is primary or secondary. So the most commonly it is a secondary malignancy is much more common as compared to primary malignancy. So secondary malignancy is more common scenario, as I told you. It is a metachronous high-grade sarcoma. So what is the meaning of metachronous? That a person is having a GCT. After some time, the patient has developed a high-grade sarcoma, okay, in the setting of GCT, but it is after some time. It doesn't happen simultaneously. Okay, that is a secondary malignancy in a case of GCT. The primary malignancy is very rare, and that is synchronous, means GCT is there along with your malignant tumor. Along with malignancy, both of them are together. That is, they are synchronous in nature. Okay, just remember one thing, this immunohistochemistry, that is H3.3, this IHC or even the H3F3 is not very helpful in determining the malignant nature because it is positive in both your malignant as well as benign GCT. And the patients with malignant GCTs are having a very poor prognosis. Okay, so this is all about malignancy in case of germ cell tumor. Now we come, any doubts with regard to this GCT? Yes. Okay. Then we come to the aneurysmal bone cyst. This aneurysmal bone cyst, if you will see, it is a second tumor of an unknown origin, plus it is one of the giant cell containing lesion, and it is very important to understand this. So just like GCT, it is also benign in nature involving the bone. It occurs in the first 2 decades of life, and the site is the metaphysis. So if you will recall, giant cell tumor, it is not seen in the metaphysis, it is seen in the epiphysis. Okay, whereas over here they are seen in the metaphysis. The second thing over here is, look at the age group. ABC is in the first 2 decades, whereas GCT was there in the older age group.
Third group.
And third important point of difference over here is that it is also involving the vertebra, but GCT was involving which part? The body. It is involving the sacrum, but which part of the vertebra? It is involving the body of the vertebra. Whereas aneurysmal bone cyst is involving the dorsal elements. Okay, so these are all the fine points. Once you answer in this particular manner, you are bound to get very good marks for all the vivas. Okay, now very important, this is also a purely lytic lesion, but what differentiates radiologically? The metaphysis. One very important classical or specific point for ABC, which is not seen usually in case of a normal X-ray, in CT or MRI, you will see multiple fluid levels because they are containing fluid. Multiple hemorrhagic fluid levels are seen over here, which is the most helpful radiological feature for a specific diagnosis of aneurysmal bone cyst. So grossly, what we are going to see? We are going to see a lesion which is showing some septa. So this might be a lesion which might show some kind of septa like this grossly, okay, which is filled with blood or serum. Microscopy. So first, let me see if there is a radiological image. Okay, so if we can see over here, in the metaphysis, if you can see, the right ankle is demonstrating, okay, a lytic lesion over here, if you can appreciate. But it is not there in the end. It is actually in the metaphysis. Okay. And again, just like any other tumor, they are having periosteal new bone formation. That is a classical feature of benign lesion. This is again a lesion over here. Again, this is the epiphysis. This is the metaphyseal involvement, if you can appreciate over here, and a thin rim of reactive bone that has formed over here, which is common for any benign lesion. Okay. Now, this is the third important image of an MRI. If you can you appreciate the multiple fluid levels in the section, they have shown multiple fluid levels can be seen, which is characteristic feature of an ABC. So radiologically, you can make a diagnosis in this particular manner. Now, before I go into the theoretical part, that is a little bit boring. So let us first see together itself. Now, as we can see over here, that there are multiple spaces which is not lined by any vascular endothelium, and you see multiple areas of hemorrhage. Okay, multiple areas of hemorrhage. There is a very irregular distribution of multiple giant cells, as you can see over here in this image. And again, they do not have, and the stromal cells also, the spindle cells, and very important, the stroma is not mononuclear. In fact, the stroma is containing loose spindle cells. Loose spindle cells. This is again one of the differential diagnoses from giant cell tumor. Okay, so histologically, these are important points that we have to understand. So again, this is the high power view wherein we can see the fibrous septa composed of spindle cells and scattered multinucleate giant cells, and these cells are irregular in distribution. They are irregular in distributions, whereas in case of GCT, they were more uniform in distribution. Okay. Okay, coming over here, we will come to the differential diagnosis. Let us just read out the point that we have already discussed. So microscopically, under the low power, you will see cysts of varying sizes, which are separated by a septa composed of loosely arranged spindle cells, which are supposed to be myofibroblastic in nature, admixed with osteoclast-like giant cells. Okay, mitotic activity though is there, but cytological atypia and atypical mitosis are not present. This is common even with GCT. Okay, very important thing over here is occasionally ABC may be secondary to any underlying lesion. So it can occur secondary to GCT, we have already seen. It can also occur secondary to a chondroblastoma, and it can occur secondary to a fibrous dysplasia as well. Okay. Now, very importantly, sometimes these cystic hemorrhagic areas might not be present. Over there, okay, they might have a solid, just solid area. So this is called as a solid aneurysmal bone cyst. Okay. Okay. Let me just, I've shown you this. Now we come to the differential diagnosis. So first you have to understand what is the molecular aspect. We should understand the molecular aspect of ABC. So very importantly, usually people, they remember about the rearrangement involving the USP6 gene, but they tend to forget the recurrent rearrangement of chromosome band 17. Okay, it is most commonly as a balanced chromosomal translocation, that is translocation 16-18. People forget this part. I don't know why. This is very important to remember. Secondly, they are having USP6 gene rearrangement, which is present in 70% of the primary, but it is not there in secondary ABC. Now remember, this USP can have multiple partners, but the most important is CDH11, seen in 30% of USP6 fusion genes. Others are also there. You might or you might not remember their names. Okay. So the differential diagnosis in case of ABC, it includes giant cell tumor, simple cyst, and telangiectatic osteosarcoma. So just now we have read about GCT, wherein they do not contain, first of all, with the history, we can say GCT is there in the older age, ABC is in the younger age, GCT involving the epiphysis, ABC involving the metaphysis. Then the age group is there. GCT is in older, this is in younger age group. Then one more thing over here is the histopathology. Both of them contain giant cells, but ABC is containing multiple cystic hemorrhagic areas, as I showed. The giant cells are more uniformly spread out in GCT, whereas it is irregular in the other. And the stroma, they are round mononuclear in nature in GCT, whereas the stroma is spindle shaped in case of ABC. Okay. So all these parts, and even the involvement of the vertebra. Remember, GCT is involving the vertebral body, whereas the ABC is involving the dorsal elements of the vertebra. Okay. Okay. And this telangiectatic osteosarcoma is a type of osteosarcoma we have discussed in the previous lecture itself. The telangiectatic osteosarcoma is one type wherein again you are having multiple cystic areas, and in between you have certain giant cells and tumor cells, and you have osteoid matrix, and you have pleomorphic tumor cells are there. Highly pleomorphic tumor cells are there in between. So we have already read about that. So we are not going over here. Telangiectatic osteosarcoma will show obvious marked cytological atypia along with pleomorphism. Okay. Okay. Now we come to the third important tumor. Now, Ewing's